Welcome to today's episode of Holistic Voices. We have a very exciting guest with us. For those of you just joining the podcast, we are Preslar Consulting, and we specialize in helping health and wellness businesses scale their revenue. If you want to learn how to take your wellness business to the next level, make sure to stick around. And if you're interested in a free growth consultation, just drop us the word growth in the DMs. Today's guest is Laura, a wellness entrepreneur and certified health coach and founder By Way of Gray. Laura helps high-achieving women overcome burnout through her customized Unbinding burnout program, one-on-one coaching, and corporate workshops. She brings 18 plus years in brand and marketing leadership for household names from the Home Depot and Deloitte to IHG and DC Comics. So she understands performance cultures from the inside. We'll dig into how she's helping women recalibrate success without burning out. Laura, thanks for being here. Can you tell us a bit about yourself and your background?
Yeah, absolutely. So you just kind of skimmed over it, but I had a 20-year career in marketing and advertising. And, as so many of us do, I burnt out around, the pandemic. I really started reconsidering what the career not only was giving to me, but also taking from me. And started really just looking inside at my own journey, my own career, and the burnout that I was suffering from, and kind of just flipped my entire life upside down about 2.5 years ago. So I am one of those people that burned my entire life to the ground and started from scratch. But I'm here to work with women of all ranges, right? So maybe they just have some light tweaks to make. Maybe they want to burn it all down and start from scratch. But my specialty is really pivoting a little bit, and I would love to tell you more about that today.
Perfect. Great. Yeah, no, I'm very curious to hear about it. When you say you burnt it all down, so I read something several years ago. It was actually in a book that I read, and it, the author said something along the lines of like entrepreneurs will kind of self-sabotage for like one of two reasons or both, but it's usually one or the other. And one is like boredom. Like basically they become bored in their business. Maybe they've achieved certain goals and they end up just like sabotaging their entire what they've built, right? And I don't even remember what the second one is. Do you know that?
Well, no, but I will say the difference in my journey is that I'm new to the entrepreneur side of things, right? I was in corporate for 20 years, working at some of the biggest ad agencies, and so I burned it all down because I was really starting to recognize that I was more of an entrepreneur. I was getting bored working for other people. But it's interesting that you say boredom because boredom is something that I truly believe that we are lacking right now. And so, it's interesting that boredom really is the thing that you need to spark the creativity and the action. But so few of us allow ourselves to get bored and get creative, that we continue to just kind of stay in big machines that maybe aren't serving us.
Okay, gotcha. So you intentionally burnt, I mean, not subconsciously, but intentionally burnt things down.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I definitely was, my physical health was really the big alarm because, nobody's going to slow down unless they're forced to. And at that point, it was like, okay, this career that I'm in is really kind of just being driven by ego. And I found that making this major change, and when I say I burned it down, I burned everything down professionally, personally, left a long-term relationship, moved, left the agency world, started traveling, went back to school. I mean, just a complete 180 from where I was. But again, it's not everybody has to go to that extreme, and that's critically important to know before we get into any more detail.
Right. Okay. Yeah, no, that's good to know as a foundation so people aren't sabotaging.
Yeah.
What can you give us a snapshot of By Way of Gray? I know we kind of talked about it already of who you serve and what your day-to-day looks like now.
Yeah, yeah. So by way of gray, interestingly enough, was an idea that popped into my head about 12 years ago, and I had no idea what it was gonna turn into. But I remember, being deep in trying to climb the corporate ladder in advertising and being married and just kind of doing all the things to check off society's checklist, right? Like, get the degree, get married, build the career, buy the house, all of the checks. So I was cleanly going through that list. And at one point, I remember sitting on the couch with my ex-husband, and I was just irritated about emails coming in and him. I think it was around Thanksgiving and the holidays are stressful. And I was kind of talking to myself in my head, and I was like, Laura, you need to just chill out and, enjoy life in the messy middle. Like, just live by way of gray. And I bought that URL. It was probably like 2013. I went on to Network Solutions, bought that URL, and then didn't touch it again for 11 years. So it's important to think of, little seeds are planted. And, as we are caught in an entrepreneurial kind of chaos, or with women, whether that be working a full-time job, taking care of the home, trying to be a good partner, trying to, be in their friendships and be good daughters and wives and mothers and colleagues, really everybody just gets so busy, and it's impossible to change your situation or better your situation without pausing, consideration. And the real thing is you can't automate integration, integrating things that you're learning. We're in the age of information, the age obviously of AI, where everything's kind of getting taken out of our hands, right? So it's not about getting more information. It's about using that information. Where are we actioning in our lives? Where are we integrating in our lives? How are we slowing down to think about what our North Stars are? When are we strategizing for ourselves versus just asking ChatGPT a question? So, the program that I have is not rocket science, right? It's about auditing your life, assessing your life, action planning, and accountability. It's not new, right? But the problem is that so few people are actioning against it, or actually slowing down and doing those things. And so that's where my coaching program really comes in, is walking the walk more than coming up with new information.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. What's what was the main, again, I know we kind of touched on this, but what sparked the transition from marketing leadership into holistic wellness and burnout coaching?
Yeah, I just hit rock bottom. From a physical health standpoint, from an anxiety standpoint, I became extremely depressed. I just had a lot of the physical symptoms of burnout, and I needed to take a step back. I took, I tried doing all the things. I tried taking yoga retreats. I tried taking sabbaticals from work. I even took a mental health sabbatical at one point and took 6 weeks off, just to kind of do a reset. And the thing is if you don't kind of take away the key concepts of what you're trying to integrate into your life, you go and do this thing and then you go right back into the system and you do it exactly the way you were doing it before. So that's why it's so important to understand that, like, retreats, vacations, even health sabbaticals, they're not a long-term fix. They are a beat to do some of the work that may allow you to take it further. But so few people are actually reintegrating those things in when they return into normal life, that it almost makes those things null and void, right? So I'm working on a specialty program that, will be targeted towards people that are returning from retreats or returning from, large vacations, or are having a major life change And it's about how do you take the knowledge that you've been collecting and bring it into your life? Because otherwise, spending $10,000 on a retreat is kind of like flushing that money down the toilet. You have a great experience while you're there. How do you bring it back into, you know, the next phase of life?
What do you think the what do you think the number one thing is um to focus on when somebody is experiencing burnout?
It's different for absolutely everybody, right? But what I would say is that the four key steps that anyone can benefit from taking are, if you feel like you have burnout. And also, I find that a lot of people don't necessarily want to claim that they have burnout, right? Like you kind of feel it as a result of you being a high achiever and you being somebody that's motivated, you don't want to admit defeat, right? Or you don't want to admit that you can't do it all. So, when you're feeling like you could have burnout and you don't want to call it burnout, it becomes tricky to treat it. So, four immediate steps, if there's any kind of issue, would be take an audit. And this is the program that I actually walk my clients through step by step. But auditing your entire life, every element of your life. This isn't just about the job, the career, the business, right? It's about your relationships. It's about the way that you care for your physical body. It's about spirituality, community. Are you tapped into people that can support you? Do you have a good resource system? What are your strengths? Do you know your core values? I'll tell you that I didn't know my core values until I started my training program to become a health coach. I had never even thought of my core values. I had built business values for a bunch of organizations, never turned that mirror around to myself personally. And I find that a lot of people don't. And so this is a fun exercise to go through with people, but it's really about auditing your whole ecosystem, figuring out through assessments and conversations what needs attention first, and then building a specific strategic action plan against that, right? This really comes down to fundamentals like SMART goals, developing SMART goals, right? It's so simple. We do it in business all the time. Turn that lens back on your life. And then having an accountability partner, right? So that's again where coaching comes in, is I'm not only holding your hand throughout this process and asking you questions that maybe you haven't taken time to ask yourself, but then I'm helping to hold you accountable through the process. And if something's not working, we can assess together why. But yeah, auditing, assessments, action planning, and accountability, holding yourself accountable, keeping promises to yourself are the things that everyone can do if burnout is creeping or a concern.
Okay, so it kind of sounds similar to, I guess, let me ask you if I guess let me ask you this. Do you think it's true, or a big part of the core of what you're saying is, I don't know if you've heard of this term people throw around a lot, that do coaching as kind of the core four, or like they focus on really having as much of a balance as possible with mind, body, spirituality, you know body, as in fitness and what you put in, you know these four areas. Would you say would you agree that that's really important to do, I mean, to as part of avoiding burnout?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the thing about the first thing we do is the audit, right? Because it's people don't even recognize the full holistic picture of life, right? Until you sit down and you review it together. And so I know when I was working crazy 70, 80-hour work weeks, considering where I felt I was from a spirituality standpoint wasn't something that hit my radar. I knew that I needed to go to the gym. I knew I needed to eat better, but honestly, I didn't, because I was eating at my desk every single day, right? And like just in between meetings trying to figure out what to do. Right. So it's until you take some time and look at it, I don't think people really do that holistic assessment on a regular basis. But it's it is absolutely critical because they're all connected. You can't really you can't really have a balanced lifestyle unless you're considering all elements. I don't know if this is actually answering the question. But yeah, the first thing to do is to think about all of the elements of life, right? And rank them and then figure out where from there the work needs to be done, whether that be on physical body to fuel mental, right? They all contribute to each other.
Right. Yeah. No. Yeah, that makes sense. I was just thinking about it while you're saying that, and I remember it was body, business, spirituality, and relationships,
Mhm.
and like having a good balance between those four things. And anyway, I've heard it from multiple like high performing entrepreneurs, and them saying like this is like super important um to your process.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So, I mean, um, in the health coaching program that I went to, it's the Institute of Integrated Nutrition, IIN, which is a globally known program. They consider the food you eat to be secondary food, whereas primary food is actually a 12 matrix system of relationships, education, creativity, level of joy, right? um Work ethic or work success isn't in that at all. And that's one thing that I think is really important, is that, the business element of things should not be a key factor in holistic health. Your work output, whether that be something that is a large part of your life or something, that you're trying to minimize, that is what you do. That's not who you are. And we get mixed up with that pretty easily, that our job, our business as entrepreneurs is a key core part of our life. But the reality is it has nothing to do with who we are or our physical health. It's an output that we create. And so I not struggle, but it's the concept of having business be one of the key four areas of your holistic health is something that I've actually recently decided to personally deprioritize. I have a thing called Daily Five, where I do 5 things every day that make me feel like a foundational human. And one of them was move my business forward, until I actually just spent a month in Bali. And so it was hydrate, meditate, journal, move my business forward, move my body. And I recently deprioritized move my business forward. And it's because I got a fever in Bali and was not able to even think about my business. And it had just occurred to me that it shouldn't be part of the health discussion at all, if that makes sense.
yeah, yeah, it does. It's funny that you said that, because when I was when I was thinking of the four, um, it was kind of weird to have business in there. But in this dynamic, that specific book, I see why it was. But from what you're saying, yes, I agree. It doesn't make sense as a way to, because that's a lot of what's contributing to the burnout, right? Is that
Exactly.
part? Oh, go ahead.
No, no, no.
Oh, I was going to ask you, based on that, what shifts are you seeing in how, yeah, I guess not only high achievers, but and companies are thinking about burnout beyond take a vacation or add self care.
Hmm. Yeah,
What
yeah.
shift? Yeah, what shifts are you seeing?
I mean, I'm not sure I totally understand the question. Just meaning,
Well, like, are you seeing any shifts as far as how people, how high achievers and companies are thinking about burnout, like beyond take a vacation or add self care, or do you think it's
I
still?
it still feels a lot like people are being, asked to produce. I think with AI coming in, it's becoming even worse from a business standpoint and expectations of business, because now with the integration of tools like ChatGPT, somehow the unreasonable expectations of productivity have skyrocketed even to an even more dangerous level. Right. When I was in advertising, one of the biggest things that I was worried about from a regular basis was giving creative teams the time and space to ideate, right? They shouldn't be in meetings back to back all day. They should be out taking walks and finding inspiration for the next great ad campaign. Not listening to the clients, talk about the budget for 4 hours and then trying to spin out an idea in 15 minutes between meetings. And now with ideation becoming something that is automated, again, coming down to you can't automate the health integration that I work with my clients on because the expectations around everything is automate, make it faster, spin out ideas, right? There's always going to be that human polish that needs to happen, but the expectations are just getting completely out of control with what the human brain should be able to do. And it's funny because our brains have not evolved in like 10,000 years for the most part. I mean, of course, on some levels, but we've still got that fight, flight, lizard brain thing going on. And technology has absolutely changed exponentially, was created and has become what it is today in like 50 years. So we all know that this is contributing to the development of our children. It is contributing to the downfall of, humanity at its core. That sounds dramatic, but the ability for a person to be a person, the ability for children to go out and play and use their imaginations to create an experience as opposed to sitting on a tablet, and not being able to entertain themselves without that tablet. We're seeing depression rise. We're seeing anxiety rise. Our children have ADHD at younger, but more frequent quantities. And we know all of this. So what are we going to do about it? That is the shift that we need to make. And it's truly, we've got all the information. As a coach, I don't need to teach you one thing about what you should be eating, how you should be exercising. You can literally type into a bar on a computer and get any kind of advice that you need about your health, your wellness. But again, what are you going to do with it? And that's where we work together.
Gotcha.
And I think
Yeah,
that's the shift that corporate needs to make, is at least giving people the resources to go into that kind of fundamental work in their personal lives, because the expectations are only going to continue to rise inside of their walls.
gotcha. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I don't have a ton of experience in the corporate world, so I'm not real attached to that as far as information goes, but and that's
Well,
why
and
I want.
to translate that for entrepreneurs, right? Those expectations are only growing, right? It's the exact same thing. They feel like they should be able to do more faster on their own. And I'm experiencing that myself, of course, right now with building by way of gray. But I had my web developer reach out to me and he's like, I need 30 blogs. And I'm like, I don't want to just use ChatGPT to create 30 blogs to send to you in 3 hours, but that's the expectation. And entrepreneurs should be able to do more because you've got the AI, agents and things like that are coming in. And it's setting an expectation, just like in corporate America, that you should be doing a lot more. But really, as an entrepreneur, the space to think, to be bored, to be creative, to work on your own healing as needed and take care of yourself, that should be front and center.
Right. Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, that makes sense as far as it's just raising expectations in a lot of these work settings.
Right.
Uh,
And
um,
that's why I think coaches are so important, because as things, we're kind of still the human helping hand that is available to you, where everything else feels like it's moving online.
yeah, I have always had, I think probably for, geez, how long has it been? Probably somewhere around 20, 25 years. I've always had some sort of coach or mentor, like always, right? Like I have more than one right now. For whatever something I'm focusing on, or it might be something business related, or it might just be personally for me, right? So, like like right now, I have a doctor who's coaching, mentoring me, offering me, like I just went and got the labs done this morning that he ordered, right? But he also coaches you, and combines health and lifestyle and anyway. But so I understand the importance of coach. I'm always utilizing at least one, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but a lot of people don't, right? And it's just kind of like, I've had this discussion with people about, like, therapy, for example, as well. And people will say, oh, I'm never going to do that. And I'm like, why wouldn't you want, like, it's kind of like a teacher, right? Like you have like a hands-on kind of tailored for you teacher to help, because it's hard to figure things out by yourself. And having that outside perspective and somebody who's not in the middle of everything is, I think it's really important.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Well, we can lose ourselves inside our own brains and only reaching out to Chat GPT to gut check us. So yeah, having, the ability to have somebody kind of mirror you so you can hear yourself back and process things, um, I think it's a little scary to think that we continue to inch further and further away from that kind of human connection. If anything is scary about technology, it's losing the humanity in ourselves as a society, as business owners, as colleagues, um, as friends, as family. Right, the pandemic pushed us online in a way that I think really fundamentally changed everything except for basic human needs. And connection and community is one of those. And we will continue to see people get sicker, the more we kind of forfeit those basic human needs as part of day-to-day operation. And just because we can be more efficient doesn't mean that that is the thing that's healthy for the masses. And so, yeah, just having that person to look at you as a person, not you as something that needs to provide an output
right.
is important.
Yeah, no, I agree. Um, you often, I've seen that you often talk about unlearning survival strategies, like overgiving, overriding needs, outsourcing worth. What patterns show up most, and how do you begin to unwind them?
Mm. Oh, well, we could do a whole hour, a whole day workshop on this one. But as much as it's hard for us as successful people to really look back at what foundationally made us the way that we are, right? We are just kind of pushing forward, go getting, trying to build, trying to innovate, trying to get things done. One of the biggest points of breakthrough that I have with clients is when we really go back to the foundation of kind of the expectations of you in childhood and that how that turned you into who you are today. For example, I had a very unpredictable childhood. Unfortunately, I have a mother that it was not diagnosed with schizophrenia until her 60s. But what we know about schizophrenia is that it comes up in your 20s and 30s, right? So I didn't realize in the 90s that I had a schizophrenic mother. Nobody knew about it, right? And so that unpredictability, so many of us simply weren't educated about what our parents were experiencing. And that goes back generation over generation. And I think right now, millennials are really impacting society by kind of trying to figure out how to be this middleman of kind of generational trauma that's been passed down, passed down, passed down, and they don't want to pass that on to their children. So they're either not having them or they're instilling this like new way of parenting that kind of stops the trauma. It's an extreme burden, I think, for the current generation of parents. But that is just a long way of getting to the point that is, our parents didn't know better, and hurt people, right? And so a lot of us grew up as kids that felt like we needed to earn love, or we needed to people please, or we needed to keep the peace. And now we operate from a place of needing to prove ourselves constantly to get any validation that we're doing the right things, right? We've been following society's script for so long that we truly believe it to be a truth. But it is still just kind of, I don't know, it's something that we need to undo, and we're working on it, but it's a massive burden for this generation. Does
Right.
that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yes. Yeah. No, it does. Yeah, I think that's very, very insightful. What kind of shifting gears here a little bit.
Yeah.
As far as your business goes, what's working really well in your practice right now? Like, program channels or outcomes are you most excited about?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely am moving into a little bit of a specialty area, right? So, for quite some time, I was working with executive women. And absolutely, while those women are definitely prime for the coaching program, there's also interest in kind of pivoting my marketing strategy down the health chain by one link. And what I mean by that is, instead of trying to meet women at the workplace, which is a place where they're very motivated, they're very driven, they have KPIs they have to meet, right? And so the idea of taking a pause to do some of this work in order to go back into the same system and perform better, it's hard for them to kind of take that step. Um, Whereas if that woman has already decided to take a step back by joining a retreat, or, coming into some kind of community of women that is actually already trying to think about ways to change this system that they're stuck in. And again, that is corporate or entrepreneurs or stay-at-home mothers, right? Thinking about women specifically. They're ready to take a step back and assess, is this the right thing, the right life for me, the right way to be doing things? Those women are a little bit more kind of prime for doing some of this deep auditing, assessing, action planning, strategy building. And most of those executive women are going to get to this point. So I am very much focused right now on catching people in the mindset of taking a step back, making an assumption or an assessment of their life by taking a yoga retreat or a workshop, or, they've cracked their brains open a little bit. So yeah, that's a pivot that I'm trying to make in the business right now. And it is presenting some challenge, right? And just trying to figure out, it's funny, I was in advertising for 20 years, but it is a completely different ballgame to market yourself as an individual entrepreneur than it is to do advertising for, a Fortune 100 company. Doing the coaching plus doing the marketing and refining the message and making sure that you're hitting the right channels, I think is a challenge across the board for entrepreneurs that I'm facing, just like everybody else.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Well, now on the flip side, what's been the most challenging?
Well, that I I think maybe I answered the challenging question first. It's just like making sure that you're hitting the right people at the right moment with the message that they need, because everybody knows that this is valuable. But again, because of some of those expectations and just the way that we're living right now, everything's working against you to do this kind of work. And it's very easy to put it off, put it off. And so just getting people to be like, but if you slow down and you start working towards a North Star instead of just doing, performing, then you're more effective, you're more efficient, you actually can do more and do less simultaneously. But, are you even working towards the goal that you want to be working towards? Slow down. People aren't necessarily always ready for that work. And so that's challenging because it makes you better. It will make you do everything better. But taking the time to do it is nearly impossible for people.
Right. Yeah. Like the times they should be taking care of themselves the most, they don't, right? It's kind of what they say. What metrics or milestones are you focused on currently?
So currently right now, I'm really trying to honestly just continue to build my client list. I'm fighting with the idea of going more online and having, kind of content with like subscription-based programming. I know this is a major thing for a lot of entrepreneurs right now, is like, especially as somebody that is talking about work-life balance, right? There's a major workload that comes along with doing one-on-one coaching and spending time with people and supporting people directly versus spinning up some kind of, lead magnet system that leads people to an online resource repository and kind of makes that money, that income without you even having to touch it. That's a battle that I'm going through right now, because though that's a wonderful way to go forward and that allows me to take a step back from the business and live my own life. Also, what I love most about the coaching business is getting to know people on a deep level and really, building a relationship with them over a 3 to 6 month period where we're cracking things open together in a partnership. Um, and so that really comes down to the problem of scalability. I've only got so many hours, and coaching can be very heavy emotionally, right? You're digging into people's absolute desires and psychology and behaviors and childhood patterns and and then thinking about everything from how to make their efficiency as a parent better to how to grow their own business. A lot of different elements of life that you're getting into. And with my holistic approach, as we talked about in the beginning, we're talking about things like spirituality. We're talking about what they're eating every day, right? The spectrum is so wide that it takes a lot of energy to do one-on-one coaching, because you're having to think about someone's entirety as a being and really just keep that 10,000-foot view while they dig deep into things individually. So you're holding a lot of space for people. And I know a coach, it doesn't matter the coaching specialty. All the coaches that you've worked for probably encounter some level of that, no matter what they're specializing in. Holding that space so you can evolve through the process exactly how you need to. So that's the thing. Can you scale a business like this? Should you scale a business like this? Right? That's the question that I'm asking myself.
Right. Yeah, and that's a very complex question.
Yeah. And in the age of automation, the expectation is yes. Is my business seen as less successful because I choose to not automate the process?
Right. Yeah, there's definitely some big questions there.
Yeah.
Well, based on that, looking 6 to 12 months ahead, what would success look like for you? And by the way of Gray,
Yeah.
I,
Success would definitely look like maintaining a reasonable one-on-one coaching list, right? Maybe a smaller a smaller quantity than I'm coaching today, but really some people that are potentially more invested in making large overhauls, right? But then also simultaneously have that digital resource um, kind of uh, system set up so that I could service more people at once, depending on how deep they want to go, right? So going deeper with less people while simultaneously offering a lower ticket, more easily accessible range of resources for people that may not want to do that deep work that I love to do just yet. But they're not left out in the cold with no resources because they're not quite ready to go that deep. There's everyone is on a spectrum of what they can do today, and that evolves. So just making sure that I can support people at every level, I would say in the next year is my real, well, aggressively 3 to 6 months, but kind of being done in a year and just evolving and continuing to contribute additional content as more information comes available. So um, figuring out that scalability without losing any of the integrity of the work.
Right. Yes. I totally understand that.
Yeah.
Well, Laura, this has been fantastic, and I appreciate how you're reframing burnout and helping high-achieving women create sustainable success. For listeners who do want to connect or learn more about By Way of Gray, where's the best place to find you?
Yeah. So bywayofgray.com is my website, and there's all of my contact information there, as well as my story and connection to the YouTube channel that I'm beginning to work on. My primary channel for marketing is Instagram, and that's at By Way of Gray. And then you can always reach out to me via email it's just Laura at bywayofgray.com. And again, because I'm not automating a lot of that, you're going to get me whether you go through chat, email, or Instagram. So I'm a one-woman show right now. So I'd love to connect with anybody that's interested in learning more.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing that. Well, I'll link everything, and thanks again for joining us on Holistic Voices. And to our listeners, if you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, share it with a friend, and stay tuned for more conversations with leaders in health and wellness. And thank you again, Laura, for coming on.
Thank you so much, Jared. It was a blast.
You're welcome.